Hello and welcome to the latest in the Ambition podcast series. And today I'm absolutely delighted to welcome my guest, Andy Cowie. Andy is partner at James Cooper Creston. And it's going to be a really interesting podcast today, which sees Andy growing up between Staffordshire and Mumbles, finding his way into a recruitment role, which is an interesting story in itself. And I think quite quickly then realising where his passion lay, which was in building relationships. This saw him taking a role for within a practice firm, and it was a launch pad for his career from there, which has taken him up to today in his partner role. He's really interesting in the fact that I think Andy's very much about adding value to firms all the time, and also this whole concept and feeling of encouraging your teams to grow and develop. And I think that really illuminated when Andy shared his story about transitioning from management to leadership, and also the importance of making sure that not only do you build a network, but you nurture that network. And it's about how you continue to develop that over time. We'll touch on, again, coaching, sponsorship and mentoring, which all sound pretty similar, but they're very different. And Andy has played out that with numerous times throughout his career for himself, and then also paid it forward for his team as well. So lots for us to discuss today. I'm going to hand over to you, Andy, to bring your career history to life for us.
Thanks, Nikki, and morning, everybody. I suppose very early days, as you mentioned. So I'm actually a Manchester lad, all in. So born in Manchester, moved down to Swansea in my early years, where I did my primary and some of my secondary education. For moving up into Staffordshire, where I completed my O levels and A levels as they were then. That's for sure. Didn't really know what to do, and it was my chemistry teacher at the time that sort of pointed me in the direction of sort of mineral and mining engineering, which was not something you do a lot of in Staffordshire. It sounded quite interesting, and sold the opportunities of going and digging copper in Canada or gold in South Africa, etc. So I went down to a place called Camborne School of Mines in Cornwall to study mineral and mining engineering, which was, as I say, great fun, great experience. However, came out then at a time when the bottom fell out of the tin price more than anything. So had to go and sort of find another career. One of the things I did do within the course was surveying. I enjoyed being outside, so sort of land surveying was something that was of interest to me, and got offered a job back up in Staffordshire with a surveying firm, but unfortunately that got pulled about 3 days before I was meant to be starting, which was a bit of a disappointment.
So frustrating for you. I think, again, as you say, when you're really focused on starting your career as well.
Absolutely. It was disappointing. So, didn't really know what to do at that point. I had a girlfriend at the time who was down in Surrey, so I moved down to that neck of the woods. And it was actually my uncle. My uncle lives in that area as well, and owned a very, very nice house in Farnham. And he was an accountant for an aerospace business. And I thought, well, I'll have one of them. So why don't I become an accountant? So off I trotted to an accountancy recruitment agency. Had a great chat with the regional director there, and it became quite apparent through this interview process that I wasn't built to be an accountant. What they did do though was offer me a job within recruitment. So my first step on the career ladder was trying to recruit accountants into roles within the Thames Valley.
But do you not think that's great that somebody recognises in you a skill set that then actually will help you develop your career as well? And it's unusual, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And I think you touched on it at the very, very beginning. It's not a transactional relationship. In order to help people to get to where they want to go and to identify these skill sets, you've got to know them. So it is all about that relationship. It's all about talking. It's understanding, what motivates people, what doesn't. Having the you mentioned sort of mentorship and sponsorship, having the goal to actually say to somebody, do you know what, that isn't for you, and maybe here's what I see within you, what I think you could very much develop, and maybe pursue that career path. So recruitment is great fun, as you well know. I think
Yeah.
it's a great starting point within any career. I think it's very, very broad with regards to the skill set that you had to apply to becoming a recruitment consultant. We're talking back in the day, so there was no internet, there were no job boards, etc. So it very much was about building relationships.
Rolodex.
Yeah, absolutely. But again, building relationships with both candidates and clients aside, understanding what your clients needed, spending time with the candidates and actually looking at their skill sets, their needs, their wants, and it's a matching. It's a matching experience realistically, and it was great fun. And I say did it for a number of years. Ran a perm desk out of Camberley, and then more lastly was looking after professional recruitment for the Thames Valley. And although I say it was great and a great stepping point, outright sales probably not for me. I think that the pressure of wiping the board every 4 weeks and starting again wasn't necessarily something that I wanted to do. I knew I had mortgages and whatever coming up, and I wanted some sort of security. So it just so happened that one of the firms I was working with, Haynes Watts actually, in Farnborough, contacted me and sort of said they were looking for something a little bit different. Rules within the accountancy profession had eased with regards to what professional practices firms could and couldn't do, and they said they were looking for a sort of a marketing business development sort of role, again to open some doors for the partners to go and sell their wares, so to speak. And I looked at this, I thought that sounds quite interesting, and so quickly registered myself as a candidate with myself, put myself forward for the role, negotiated my salary and hence my fee, and got the fee paid to me, and that was kind of my first step into the role of professional services.
But I think it's definitely one of the best recruitment stories I've heard. I think you've done really well there. and how was it then stepping into a partnership environment? Because it's obviously been in that environment for a while yourself, but was it difficult? Because it's so different, isn't it?
It was so different. And as I say, we're talking sort of early 90s at that point in time where, the whole idea of sales and marketing within the accountancy profession was a little bit of an unknown. I've gone into a firm run by partners, so have a number of different bosses as you usually do. Nobody quite knowing what I'm there to do. There was no necessarily a job spec. There was, I'm just the weird bloke in the corner that makes a lot of phone calls and makes a lot of noise, so to speak. So, trying to find your way I'll call it a non-fee earning person. I mean, I think it's probably a little bit. I don't like the term necessarily, but. We'll talk about fees rather than value. When you're working within an environment where everybody sells their time and you're not necessarily selling yours, then it is a little bit difficult to make your own way. That's for sure. What you need is very much the buy-in of the people around you to give you the chance and to develop. And it's an education both for yourself and for the partners and the practices at that point in time.
But you really enjoyed it. It was something that you felt you'd almost arrived in the role that was made for you, didn't you?
Yeah, very, very much so. As you say, it probably played to my strengths. I like talking to people. I like trying to be a little bit creative. I like trying to find different ways of promoting services. I'm selling accountants at the end of the day. It's a pretty tough gig some of the time. But it's not just about that. It's trying to make sure that we're putting the brand in front of people, but very much on that value-added point of view. You mentioned value, and that's the core. That's the key to everything that we do within a marketing and BD function, not just in professional services, but more latterly in professional services, because it's such a personal sale. You've got to believe in what you do. You've got to believe in the services that you're offering, but more, you've got to believe in the people that are delivering it, because that's what you're putting in front of the clients. It's not for everybody, without doubt. It is like herding cats at some point. But, it is really good fun. And you're right. I thought this is me. This is what I like. Because it was such a different role and continues to be a different role. There's quite a lot of autonomy in the role. I don't tell the accountants how to pull together a set of accounts or a tax return. They're the experts in that. What we are is the experts in that marketing and BD function, and making sure that that's put across, and you're there for a reason.
Yeah, and quite early on, you had some really powerful sponsorship, didn't you, from one of the leaders, and again saw the impact that had on you and your career, hence why you paid it forward.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was probably within the second role that I had. So you suppose you always get sponsorship. You get sponsorship of the role, and then obviously the person then comes above it. But I think very much within my second role within professional services, there was a partner who was so very much sort of marketing and business development focused. He kind of moved away from the accounts. He was very much a business advisor. He was a massive networker. He had a huge amount of people that he knew and would be referring work to him, and a massive character both within the local market and internally. He very much saw the value of marketing and business development and what that could bring to a business. And he was very much that mentor that I aspired to. As with most mentors, he was a lot older than me. He'd been there, done that. But actually, you learn from that, and you take what you can from that. Try and be that. Of course, you make your own. You make your own decisions, and you're your own person. But having that person just to sort of look after you and the culture, introduce you to the culture of the business and what you can and can't do. But then very much this is how he built the network. This is how he deals with relationships. That was kind of invaluable from that mentoring point of view. And then, of course, when you get on so well with your mentor, then it becomes a sponsorship, and I think that, he then very much had a massive effect on my career. And more the progression that I made through the firms, say to what I am today, more than anything, because without that mentoring and then indeed the sponsorship and putting me in front of the right people and very much being behind me as an individual and the role that I was coming up with, that was invaluable, absolutely invaluable. It's a lonely place, marketing and BD within professional services. You definitely need that buy-in and support from everybody around you.
Yeah, but I love that point you made there actually around that, going from the mentoring side to the sponsorship. I think that's a really good point, because I think that's overlooked at times. Yeah. And it does transition. Those relationships transition. Mentors aren't for life, are they? But a sponsor is for life.
Absolutely. And I suppose the difference is, the mentor can be sort of internal or external.
Yeah.
The sponsor has to be internal. They're the person that's, that they believe in you, that they've seen. They've seen something in you that they like, and they've managed to mould, etc. But you need that sponsor to be internal to make sure that they're pushing it up to the the higher echelons of the firm and the wider community, etc. So ideal if it's the same person, but I think that to my mind that's the big difference between that mentorship and sponsorship.
Doesn't need to be, but you're very entrepreneurial in the way that you work, and I think that's already been shown, as your career was developing and growing, and then you again had a different iteration in your career, didn't you?
Yeah, a number of years on after doing what we were doing within Haines Watts, an opportunity came up to we were in a joint venture partnership with a marketing business, which was a little bit of an aside, so to speak. We looked at it because, we were delivering accountancy and advisory services to, sort of entrepreneurial and managed businesses. And we thought, well, we've got a marketing team that could potentially do that as well. So we set up this joint venture alongside it, which was great fun. That was an ability to, pretty much set up a business from scratch. Although with the support very much of the partnership within Haines Watts. Myself and another chap set up a sort of a marketing agency, and it was, it was different. As I'd never set up a business before. The challenges of doing that, walking into an empty office with basically no desks, no IT, no clients, no clue.
That is a challenge.
Absolutely. But again, a great learning experience, and yeah, really fun. So we set it up, say a number of years after, I think probably a couple of years. Then I was offered a partnership within that business, which I turned down for a number of reasons that were going on at the time, rightly or wrongly. Don't know. I think that's
still, but a brave decision to make as well.
Yeah, it was. It kind of was. Everything could have been mapped at that point in time, but the circumstances just dictated that it probably wasn't something that I think when I was 27, 28 at the time, something like that. I suppose within business we always have a lot of what ifs, and I suppose that's probably that's probably my biggest what if. So at that stage, when they've offered you a partnership and you've said no to it, you're kind of stuck a little bit. So I was, I had to walk away at that point in time. There was no point me being there. So I actually went and joined one of the clients that we had within the agency as their full-time marketing resource, which was a commercial business. It was an IT consulting business. Yeah, maybe a little bit knee jerk. It kind of did, but it wasn't me. Probably a little bit too much salesy again. So quick, probably 18 months left there to join another recruitment business, but more on the marketing side. That was an international recruitment business based up in Aylesbury. That was, and I was living in Wokingham at the time. So that was an hour and a half commute every day, which was becoming a little bit too much. Baby Cowie came along, and at that point I needed somewhere close to home, and joined another back into professional services. Joined a firm called Tennant, which was one of the acquired firms down in Windsor. And so to go back into professional services, which is where my mentor was, who we kind of mentioned earlier.
Had you missed professional services then? Had you missed, the partnership environment? Because you mentioned your knee-jerk reaction, and I think all of us have got one of those roles in where you do and you learn from it, and that's great, isn't it? I think that's what you should look at, is whether you can learn all the time.
Did I miss it? I probably didn't think I did at the time. I think the environment within professional services, although tough, but when whenever he's brought into it, is massively supportive and collaborative. So you're not just working with a single individual or a single department. You're very much working across that firm. You've probably got the ear of more of the partners rather than maybe just your marketing director or MD within a commercial organisation. So you've got a massive amount of collaboration, but you've probably still got a little bit more autonomy. Coming back to what I was saying previously, insofar as you're the person that they brought in to do this job because they either don't want to or can't do it. I think maybe within a commercial organisation, then you've probably got a few more people that could do that or think that they could do that. It wasn't a conscious decision. I think it was just one of those opportunities that came up, and I thought, yeah, I can do that, and I quite enjoyed it. So why not go and have another go at it?
Fabulous. And as you say, it was your sponsor was involved in that move, and you then continued to develop your career in professional services, didn't you? With your next step.
Yeah, I'll say that the Tennant was a great move, and I say it was at the time when they've just pretty much completed one of their first acquisitions, which was the firm in Windsor that I joined, and at that stage, although it was very much a national firm, it was still very much being run locally. Nice. I think that the decisions were still very much being made on a local level. I was very much involved in not all of the partners' meetings. I wasn't a partner at the time, but as part of that senior management group, we used to sit around the table and we used to make the decisions of where we were going to take our business and the local business. We just so happened to be part of a national brand at that point. So that continued for 2 or 3 years, etc. And then quite naturally, when you have a national business that's taking over these other firms, and you have to put a more of a corporate structure involved in it. So the far more centralised functions came up, of which marketing and business development was one of those. So we were acting far more as a national team rather than necessarily a local team. Not every office, was the same. Not every office had the same drivers, etc. So there were a few pressures when you're used to pretty much paddling your own canoe, and then I'm not saying being put upon by the national, of course I'm not, but there's a lot more coming out of the centre that they're expecting you to do when there's more that you could possibly be doing sort of on that local level, which benefits your local market. It probably just took a little bit of the autonomy and the fun away from what we were doing. So at that stage, whenever that was, I can't remember the dates exactly, it was just time to sort of see what else was out there. And I just so happened to have been out and about very much within the Thames Valley marketplace, where I've spent sort of the last 25 years of my career, and knew Alex Peel, who was a partner within the business at that point in time. So then when a recruitment agency approached me and sort of said, well, James Cooper Creston are looking, then at least I knew a lot about the firm already. They were big competitors to ours. In fact, I don't actually think I ever dislodged a client from James Cooper at my time at Tennant, which is always a good thing with regards to, I knew Alex, so it just seemed like a natural next step to bring me back into that probably smaller, more regional, tighter-knit firm run by its partners, decisions made locally, the opportunity to move a little bit quicker on opportunities, while still having that autonomy of sort of building and driving a team.
I love that. And you mentioned around this add value piece that you really strongly believe in, and you were given a platform to be able to do that there, weren't you?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think I joined as sort of very much a BD role, which is something they'd never had before. They'd had a marketing function, and I was brought in very much as a sort of a sole BD role, which is quite tough to be honest. I think there was a marketing team doing something, and then the partners doing something else, and me sitting, over on the left, doing sort of ploughing my own furrow, so to speak. So the first sort of 12, 18 months were quite tough. Me getting used to them getting used to me, etc. And then just an opportunity arose itself for me to sort of take over both the marketing and the business development functions, and that's when everything just clicked. I think it was the opportunity very much for me to, business development and marketing are so inextricably linked. You can't do one without the other. The marketing backs up the BD, and the BD gives the ROI for the marketing. It's that simple. So to have full control over that and what the team were doing and what we were trying to promote and how we were trying to promote it, that's when I thought, yes, I found my niche.
This is it, yeah. And the way that you work with your team, I mentioned earlier, you really felt here that you stepped into this leadership role as well, that you were, a strong manager anyway. I had previous experience of managing, but the leadership felt like a transition to you.
Yeah, very much. I think, the small teams that I'd had previously were quite well established. They were, they knew what they were doing and wanted to kind of do it that way. I mean, I was fortunate that when I came into the team, it was that opportunity to build the team that I wanted.
Yeah.
When the circumstances obviously sort of arose, and coming back to that whole mentoring side of things, I think it's. To my mind, especially within that marketing, and I'll probably get shot for this, that marketing type function, a lot of it is I'm not saying it is common sense. Yeah, there are some basic principles that you have to go with, but it's common sense. And to my mind, it's all about attitude. And I think my attitude was I can teach and mentor and whatever the team to be the best that they can be. What I can't teach or give them is attitude. So I think it's very much that, recruiting on attitude and then we'll teach you the rest, rather than trying to bring somebody else in that had been doing it the same way for however many years, but didn't necessarily fit into the culture, not both within my team, but actually within the firm as a whole. So, I think that we spent a lot of time, or I spent a lot of time, very much in the early days, in bringing the team up to where I want them to be. So, for example, my now senior manager has been with us for 10 years. She joined straight from school, and no marketing experience at all, but an attitude to die for. And she's now progressed through the organisation, qualified within her marketing, her CIM, and then pretty much takes control of this whole the delivery of the marketing functions for the rest of the team. My exec's been with me for 4 or 5 years, again straight out of the admin team, no marketing. So I'm not saying that I'll always do it, but I think, to my mind, that culture, that fit, that attitude is far more important when you're building a sort of a high-performing team than the qualifications on a CV.
And I think that's the firm's stance as a whole, isn't it? Culture is incredibly important.
Culture is massively important, especially on a firm of our size. We're not small by any stretch of the imagination, but one of the strengths of our firm very much is that people culture. We want people to be the best that they will be. We work hard, and everybody does, but it's about having that balance, and it's about looking after the individual. It's about giving them the opportunities to be what they want to be. Not everybody needs to be a partner, and I think, and that's fine. You get to where you want to be, and you do the best job that you can do, and you have the work-life balance that you want. And I always remember when I first started, I was sitting down with our chairman, that then was, and again, we were talking about this culture. And one of the things he said to me, which was, I was very young and enthusiastic at that point in time, and he said, work as hard as you want, but he'd never missed one of his kids' sports days. And he doesn't expect me to miss one of my kids' sports days. And I think when you've got your chairman saying that at that point in time, then suddenly that's the attitude in the culture. Of course, yeah. So, work hard, but, know what's important as well.
Yeah, keep that close to your heart as well. And that's also, I know that there's the James Cooper Creston Foundation that you're heavily involved in as well. And that, again, speaks volumes about the firm, doesn't it? About not just a tick box exercise, any of this stuff.
It's not. So the foundation, as a firm, like everybody, we've been supporting charitable causes for many years, and the partnership had given monies to great causes, etc. But with 5 offices, what we were finding we were doing, it was all a little bit sporadic. It was all a little bit ad hoc, etc. And maybe not necessarily getting not doing the justice to the charitable organisations more than anything. So I think it was probably 2 or 3 years ago. Then we took the decision, and so very much I took the decision that maybe we could formalise this a little bit more. So took this to the partnership with the idea of formulating the foundation. Again, not just for the tick box exercise, not just for anything. There's a lot of wins within this. One, because it gives us that. It gives us more of an approach, a formulaic approach and dedicated approach to supporting some great causes around our local areas. But what we're keen to do is that there are 3 trustees, of which I'm one, but we actually don't run the foundation. The staff run the foundation. So it's giving them the opportunity to probably step out of their day job and do things that they wouldn't normally do, so to speak. So some of our tax guys are doing the social media and the marketing. My senior marketing manager chairs it. Obviously, we let an accountant do the accounts because that's probably the best. But it was more about people development and as a firm getting behind something. I think we're just into our 4th or 5th round of funding now. We've supported whatever it is, 20 or 30 charities across the area, and it's great. It's a great feel good for us, for the people involved, and hopefully we're helping a lot of smaller charities across our regions as well. So that's been a great success.
I love that. It's great, isn't it? And you and I talked about the impact. COVID had a huge impact for so many reasons across so many firms and people, and it was really tough time. But you said at the time that the firm, it really pivoted and the support really came out for people at that period of time.
It did, yeah. Say COVID, for everybody, COVID was a very difficult time, and I think we did everything that we could to make sure that we were keeping in touch with people. Yes, the technology helped, etc. But I think whenever the opportunities arose where we could meet in groups of 4 or groups of 6, then we were making sure that we were getting out and about, not just with our teams, sort of across the firm, and making sure that we were getting together as much as we could. The community, the comms that were coming out from the managing partners in particular was excellent. Yes, we had to furlough, a few people, but quickly realised that the business hadn't taken that much of a hit, and then quickly brought people back as well. So I think that as a firm, we did really well for our people within Cobe, and proud to be a part of that. And I think that it then changed a lot of things. We're obviously now doing this via Teams or Zoom, etc., which was one of those things that we never utilised previously. I think that's a great thing. Also, I'm going to say, I think that let's not lose sight of the fact that we are a relationship-driven organisation, and what we do, has to be by building relationships and understanding people. And although this is fantastic, I still don't think it's nowhere near as good as that face-to-face.
The in real life meeting.
And I think that we need to be careful, and I think professional services as a whole need to be careful that. Yes, it is a lot easier and a lot more efficient to have these sort of meetings over this sort of platform, but I think it's far harder to build a relationship over Teams or Zoom than it is when you're out and about and actually meeting people face to face.
I agree. I think that actually leads quite nicely into the networking piece as well, doesn't it? Because I know that you're a great believer in networking, and your iterations from recruitment and into your role now, is how essential it is in building relationships, as you say. So you really have this sense of building and nurturing networks, don't you? Why? Where did that come from?
I think it comes down to it is that relationship side of things. I think within professional services, there are 1,000,001 people that do, that are accountants, that are lawyers, etc., and sort of tick the box. It's then, do I like you? Do I trust you? Can I work with you? And I think without that network, what probably happens is, because everything becomes a little bit more transactional. And as soon as you go transactional, then you're working on a cost basis, not a value basis. So I think that relationships build trust, and trust builds value. It is that simple. So yeah, I'm very keen that I'm going to call them youngsters, and that's not what I mean, but the sort of the managers and the up and comings, build that network and build that trust of people. So it's not about, well, go and work with James Cooper. It's about working with Andy at James Cooper. And actually, we don't know how good Andy is, but actually he's a great guy and he's working for a great firm. Therefore, it should be kind of okay. I think the power of the network comes back to my original mentor, so to speak. He thought, it was key to the business at that point in time. It's going to be key to the business going forward. I think that we're in a great position at the moment, and the business is going very, very well. But actually, should another dip in the economic cycle happening and things being a little bit tighter, then actually it's going to be your network, which is going to be the people that are looking to be giving you opportunities, and you're going to be the ones giving out the opportunities to them. You're going to do that through the people that and the people that you like and the people that you trust. So I bang on about it, and people probably go, oh, not again. I think, I personally think that the personal relationship is key to everything that we do, from both the marketing and business development, but also from a client point of view as well. I
think it's essential, and to your point as well, there's no point in having hundreds of people connected to you on LinkedIn. If you're not doing anything with that, you've got to really think about how you can take that forward, how you nurture it, and then also pay it forward as well. If you think you can connect to people that can help or support each other, then think about that. Think outside the box a little bit.
Yeah, definitely, and I think that what tended to happen, and I suppose when I was at the start of my career, it was just assumed that I could network, and they go to this, and you just walk into a room full of 60, 70 people and just go, bloody hell, where do I start? This is quite daunting. This is quite scary, and etc. So, I think we need to be aware that it's not just about walking into a room. I think if we're expecting the up and comings to start building their network at their level, and why? Because the network I've got now, I've had for 20 years. That you sort of grow up together. What I'm very keen to do is to start building that network at that level. So in 20 years, they've got a Simonsight network. Yeah. But in order to do that, you've got to give them the tools. You can't just expect somebody to walk into a room and build a relationship. If some can, but some feel quite nervous and tentative about it. So, we've worked quite hard with again, those individuals that want to do it. Not everybody wants to do it, and that's fine too. But we work quite hard, and we actually set up a sort of a group ourselves, a lawyer, a banker, and a surveyors coming in board, where we all chose sort of 10 of our sort of young individuals that wanted help, and actually organised some formal networking training and how to work a room and what to expect, etc. And so we got 30 or 40 people in a room, and there's no better way to practice networking in a safe environment than with a facilitated session, etc. So we've had a couple of those sessions. What's been great at that point is now this 30 or 40 people are now doing their own thing. They're getting together on a semi-regular basis, but then more often, if they're going out to events, they're giving each other a call and saying, well, I'm going to this, are you coming as well? So, you see things like that and you go, yeah, this is what future-proofs our business sort of going forward. But I think we've got to give people the tools, we've got to give people the opportunity, and we've actually got to tell them what the expectation is. So many of them were, I've gone into a room, does that mean I need to sell something? No, I don't want you to sell anything. I just want you to come out of there with, and you've met a couple of people you think, they're all right, and that'll do.
But I think that's such a great idea. I love this Rising Stars concept that you've got. And as you say, getting to meet people from different walks of life. And then that at a networking event, you do know one person. All you really need is, if you're not a confident networker, is to know one person, and then you can actually have somebody to be a little wingman when you're going around and meeting other people. So good.
Always easier to hunt in a pack,
Yeah, very true.
And again, you said it there. You meet people from all walks of life. To my mind, the network is there to be shared, and that's not. It's about sitting in the centre and being able to just kind of connect people, and that's not necessarily within professional services. I know a lot of web designers, I know a lot of coaches, I know all these people. You think they're of no, not of no use to me, but I'm not going to be able to get past them business or them past me business, etc. It doesn't matter, because then when somebody says, "Do I know somebody who?" 9 times out of 10, the answer is yes. What that does is means that I'm adding value to my client. I'm not necessarily taking value, but I'm adding value just by giving them that wider network and opportunities for them to develop both themselves, their business, and whatever that they need. And I work for an accountancy practice. It doesn't necessarily mean it's all about accountancy.
But I love that, again, it goes back to your core values of adding value, of really feeling that you need to be doing that as part of your role in whatever iteration it's been in your career. And it's still there, and it's still coming through all the time. And obviously it's a different level that you're doing it now as a partner, but you're bringing people together still, which is...
definitely. And I think it's testament to the firm that, I'm the first non-fee earning partner that this firm has ever had. Why? Because, again, it's that value. But what has been great has been both the reaction to it internally and externally. I suppose externally, great. It was a big network, and hopefully, they can see the value that I do add. But I think internally, it takes away that glass ceiling for anybody who works within this organisation. It doesn't matter what you do. But if you're great at it and you're adding proper value in this and other, then you don't have to be an accountant to reach partner. And I think that's been the overwhelming sort of feeling within the firm, that suddenly the glass ceiling has been removed within James Cook Progressive for every single person within this organisation, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah, it's really good. I love that. And what would you say are the challenges facing partners in professional services firms at the moment? What's all up at night?
Yeah, I think we're in a different sort of world, aren't we? I mean, we've mentioned the whole idea of communications. I think COVID probably put far more urgency on people. Everybody, you were always available. You weren't going anywhere, etc. And I think the challenge is that you can't. Now we're back into what is sort of where we were previously. People still expect you to be able to be picking up a Teams call every now and again. People still expect you to be, responding to an email immediately, etc. And I think that the 2 years or so that when we were locked down or working from home, probably set a false expectation within the clients. And I think that's got to be managed both internally and externally. I think the time commitment based on partners, most staff really, coming back to what we were saying about being out and about, you take away all the networking, you take away all the client meetings, etc. But everyone still seemed to manage to fill their diaries and be very, very busy. Now what we're trying to do is add that back in on already busy schedules, and I think it's trying to get across the value of being out and about and meeting people and whatever, whilst still having to do your day job. So I think there are massive pressures on trying to do that. Very easy.
That's such an interesting point, actually. You think about, as you say, you couldn't meet people face to face. We know that accelerates relationships, as you've said, and everyone has been incredibly busy over the last few years. And now we're saying you're correct. And now, don't forget, there's this big part of your job that we need to get back in there, and something has to give a little bit, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. While still retaining that work-life balance, etc. So I don't think we're there yet. I don't think that. I think it's taking a little bit of time. Something's got to give. I say maybe at this time, again, because things are going quite well within people's businesses, and you're working from home. If you've then got an event at 5:30 in Reading and you've been working at home, it's a little bit of a pain to then stick on a shirt and traipse into Reading to do it. So it's those sort of things that are potentially falling off a little bit. Is it important? Probably not now. But coming back to what I was saying previously about building these relationships sort of going forward, we need to put in the hard yards now and continue to put in the hard yards now, to make sure that we're still relevant and front of mind as if and when, this economic cycle sort of takes a bit of a downturn.
I agree. And I think also is that, one of the things that partners like you always talk to me about is hybrid working and what's everyone doing, because no one's got it right at the moment. But I think what we need to do is transition a bit more from hybrid working to flexible working. So, people are used to having hopefully a better work-life balance since starting to work from home. So as you very rightly, as you say, if one of your kids has got something going on, you can go and watch Sports Day, or if it's a caring responsibility, or if it's maybe it's one of your passions or hobbies that you've been able to pick up again because you have more flexibility, being able to go somewhere at 6, 6:30. But flexibility works both ways. And I think, again, we need to make sure that, employees and employers are showing each other flexibility. So if you are working from home, you need to go to a networking event in Reading, then get your shirt on and go to it.
And I think that's I think we need to make sure that we very much are working to our diaries, and our diaries aren't working around our working from homey bit. I think there's a little bit of transition that maybe needs to work with that. And we've got to get rid of this, accessibility 24/7 type.
Yeah, I agree. That is dangerous, isn't it? Because you do. and particularly if you're working through different time zones with clients as well, you do get used to looking at your emails at whatever time, and is that good for you? Probably not. If it's an urgent piece of work, then a one-off urgent piece of work is fine, but don't build it into your day that you
most definitely. And you know what? We're a firm of 250 people. Feel sure that if you can't do it, somebody else can. You need that downtime, without doubt. And then I suppose the only final thing, with regards to it's AI, and I think the advent of yet more technologies, etc., which are there to make our lives hopefully easier. But I think that once again, sound like a bit of a broken record. AI will help with the compliance side of things. With regards to AI is not going to build a relationship. AI is not going to sell you anything. AI is not going to help. It'll help you deliver transactional value. It's not going to help you build a relationship and have that longer term type relationships with clients and individuals. So a tool to be used, but but in the right ways, and it's definitely not the answer to everything.
I love that. And what about words of wisdom to share with us?
Wisdom. Wow. I didn't ever think I'd be doing words of wisdom, that's for sure. I think that what I say, words of wisdom, I think, work hard. I think that, was it Jack Nicklaus said, the harder I try, the luckier I become.
Okay.
I think, have fun. We're at work an awful long time. You've got to enjoy what you're doing. You've got to enjoy the people that you're doing it with. And if it's not fun anymore, you're doing the wrong thing. And then finally, push boundaries. There are no glass ceilings. There shouldn't be any glass ceilings. Just set your goal and go through it. And if anything's in your way, then kind of just
smash it. Smash your ceiling. Fabulous. That's great. Thank you so much for your time today, Andy, and lots of takeaways there. I think definitely, as you say, the power of meeting in real life and building relationships, which is essential at all stages in your career, particularly when you're starting out, because you're growing with those people and they too will be seeing you with you one day, and you can help pay it forward. So thank you so much for your time. It's been really great.
Thank you. Thanks, Nikki.